Hey guys, Joshua with Josh and Hunter's Adventures, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about the top 3 winter baits that you may not be using. We're going to go over each one of them, talk just a little bit about how to fish it and the equipment that you're going to need to fish each one of these. So let's get straight into it. The first one that we have here is a what we call it in my neck of the woods is a tie line. Basically what it is, it's an 1/8 ounce head with a gulp minnow. And it's a great bait to use in the winter time. One of the things that I do that really helps out a lot is I tie just a little loop knot. You can see right there, it's just a small little loop knot that you're going to tie on that head, and it allows that bait just to move just a little bit freer. So basically the way that you're going to fish this is you're going to throw it out on where I like to get is on a 45-degree bank. So what I mean by that is the bank is running slightly at a 45-degree angle. And you will throw this bait out, get your boat in about 20-25 foot of water, and you'll throw it to the bank, and you'll just barely let it pendulum down the bank. Okay, so what you want to do is you just want to let it pendulum. So what you're going to do is you're going to barely turn your reel handle and shaking your rod just ever so lightly, and that gives that bait just a little bit of action coming down the 45-degree bank. This is a really good bait to use. A smallmouth really like it, but you will catch a lot of largemouth also with this bait. Like I said, the head that I use is an 1/8 ounce head. I poured these, but there's lots of them on the market. It just has a little bait keeper. It just helps the bait stay up there a little bit more. Like I said, I do use a 3-inch gulp minnow. You can use any color that you like, whatever whatever bait fish you're trying to imitate. They have a lot of different colors. Like I said, you'll throw it up there and just work it back really slow. Make sure that you're kind of just ticking the rocks. I always tell people if you're getting hung up, you're working it too slow, and if you're not ticking the rocks, then you're working it just too fast. But let's talk a little bit about the equipment that you're going to need to fish this technique. What I like to throw it on is 4-pound test. Make sure that you're using a very light line. It's very important because they can see that line in this super clear water that we normally have in the winter time. So I normally, like I said, I'll just buy like Trilene. I've had really good luck with it. On the 4-pound test, I haven't had any trouble. If it frays, I break it, or I'll break it off and retie it. But let's talk a little bit about the rod and the reel. So the reel that I'm using is a Daiwa Revros in a 2000. Like I said, you can put a lot of 4-pound line on these little 2000 reels, so you don't have an issue there. Now the rod that I'm using is a Phoenix Feather series. This is in a 7'1", and it is probably the best tight lining rod that I have ever come by. It's super light, and this 2000 series reel just allows me to really, I don't know, it's just so comfortable to fish, and you can fish it all day. You can see the grip here on this Phoenix rod. It's super comfortable. If you guys haven't checked out Phoenix rods, be sure you check these out. But the action on this, it's a 7'1" medium. So like I said, you want to go with a medium. You don't want a medium heavy on this. But it's a really good balanced rod and reel setup, but this is a really good setup for tight lining. Now let's talk about our next bait that you may not have heard of. The next one is a Dimiki Rig. So if you're not familiar with a Dimiki, basically what it is you will find your fish on the graph, and whether it's 2D or live scope, I've done it with both. You will find the fish on the graph, and you will drop the bait down. One of the baits that I use a lot is just a regular Dimiki Armor Shad. You can see here it's just a straight tail bait with a split tail. This one's in a shad color. This one is in a more of a white ice, I think is what they may call it. But you'll basically drop it down and hold it right above their head. Okay, so you'll see them down there, whether it's anywhere from 20 to 80 feet. I mean, there's guys that catch them in 60 to 80 foot of water. And you just hold it down there, and every now and again, just pop your rod very, very lightly. And this is a really good bait for wintertime. They really like this. But a little trick that I have found is I feel like the fish are starting to get a little smarter. And I don't know if they're picking up that ping or what it is off the sonars, but I have found that if you see them, try to stay back away from them. You know, if you've got live scope and you can see them, stay back and pitch it to them and let that bait pendulum down. If the fish are right here, let that bait pendulum down back to the boat right over their head, and that really has seemed to work. I've had a lot of luck with that this year, just letting it pendulum right back over their head, and it just seems like they're not as nervous with the boat right over top of them. I've got a couple of different setups that I use that works well for me. I'll go over both of them. One of them is a Ducket Silverado. This is in a 7-foot medium. I've got it paired up with a Daiwa Revros 2500. I'll talk to you just a little bit. One of the other baits I've been playing around with this year is the Yum forward-facing sonar. I've caught some on it. It's got like, these don't have a lot of action. Like I said, these are just straight tail, you know, split tail, little minnow shad imitating baits. But like I said, this is a Silverado, the Ducket, paired with a 2500. You're going to want to use a 4 to 6 pound test line with this. Again, you're dropping it down there on them. They're looking at it. You don't want them to see it. I will tell you this, one of the things that I have been experimenting with this year just a little bit is the loop knot on this bait also. For the simple reason that I have thought about this, I'm pendulating it to them a lot of times, I'm pitching it to them, and I feel like it allows that bait to move freely a little bit easier, and it has a more lifelike appearance coming through the water. So again, that is one of the tips that I will give you on the Dimiki is try a loop knot. The other setup that I'm using is a lose rod. This is a custom speed stick. It's in a 7-foot medium also, paired with a let's see, this one is a Regal. This is a 2500 Daiwa Regal. Same setup, you know, you want 4 to 6 pound test. But the other bait that I've been playing around just a little bit this year, this is just a do it basically swim bait head that I pour. It's just like a Dimiki head. It's got the weight on the bottom that allows the bait just to sit in the water column, you know, flat. This bait is a Berkeley Champ Minnow, I think is what it's called. You can see it's got a really good look to it, but that's something I've been playing around with just a little bit. Caught some fish on it also. It's a really good bait too. Doesn't have a lot of action, like I said. You don't want a lot of action with this bait. That's one of the big things is people don't understand. You don't want it to have a big tail kick or anything like that. But let's get on to our last bait. Now this one may be some that you are using out there. This one is the swim bait. You know, I love to throw Kitex in the wintertime. I was out yesterday and did really well on them. Basically what I use is anything from an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce head, depending on how deep that I want to go. And I use no bigger than a 3.3, but I really like the 2.8. This little Kitex here is just in that, just a shad-like color. I'm not sure if this is the Pro Blue or which one it is. But this is a screw lock head. One of the little things I found out throwing the swim baits is on the Kitex, you know, they're a great bait. They're super, the action on them super good, but they tear really easy. So I found out that if you use a screw lock head, you won't lose as many baits. When you catch the fish, it won't tear as easy. Now let's talk about a little bit about the equipment that we use for the swim bait and how we go about fishing it. First off, the equipment that I use is I use a 6 to 8 pound test line. Just tie a regular Palomar knot on it. The rod that I'm using that I like to use is a 7'7" medium action Phoenix feather rod. It's paired with a Daiwa Revros. I'm a big Daiwa reel fan if you can't tell already. But it is it's a really good setup. It's super light, and the 7'7" rod, you can cast it a really long way. So let's get into how that I go about fishing it just a little bit, and we'll talk about that. You want to make really long casts with this, and the reason of it is you can really, like, you want to crank it really slow in the winter time. So I try to keep it really close to the bottom. One of the other things that I found is you'll get on points or flats that are leading back into like some coves. If you'll just make those super long casts and just bring them down really slow all the way back to the boat, that's where you normally have the most success. You can get on these 45-degree banks and these, you know, chunk rock banks and have some success. I have done that in the past also. But one of the things I've noticed, and yesterday I was really playing around with it, is you can see them if you have live scope. You can see them out there, and if you can target them with this bait. You know, you can really bring it right by them if you have this, and that's something I did yesterday, and it was working really, really well. But these are my top 3 baits, like I said, that you may not be using, that you can give a try on your local waters and hopefully catch some bass doing these techniques. Like I said, you don't have to have live scope for any of these. Before I had live scope, I used all these techniques, and they worked out great for me with 2D, which I still have on the front of the boat there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. Hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is Josh with Josh and Hunter's Adventures, and we'll see you next time.